All right, so welcome to the first episode of Soapbox Theology. My name is Gabriel Ponce. I'm a pastor in Tucson, Arizona, and mostly this channel is going to be about spreading the gospel, talking about theology, things that are going on in culture, but more having to do with a Christian perspective. I'm not actually that interested in politics. But anyways, so this first one is going to be hopefully a little light, a little fun. Recently, and this is already a dated movie, but the Hobbit, the remake, the Battle of Five Armies, came out. And if you recall, at the end of that movie, the way the battle ends is the Eagles show up and they totally decimate the Uruks forces. But if you recall, it's also the way that the end of the Lord of the Rings trilogy ends. Sam and Frodo are on Mount Doom, essentially waiting for their doom. Their death is fast approaching, and the Eagles swoop down and rescue them from Mount Doom and carry them away. There was a couple times where I was watching it and I was like, why didn't the Eagles just give them a ride to Mount Doom in the first place? Why didn't the Eagles show up earlier and win the battle for them? And aside from, trying to find plot holes in movies, I think that this is a similar way that we think about problems in our own life. Why doesn't God just send the solution now? Why doesn't God just fix this now? I'm suffering now, there's pain now. If he has the Eagles, send them now, that'd be great. So even think back to when Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. Most of us would have been thinking, I think as the disciples were, they all told him when they were still inside that they would go to their deaths for him. And when it came time for that to be tested, Peter did strike with the sword. And I think, rightfully so. Why aren't you? Who wouldn't want to fight and defend the Lord Jesus at that point? Who wouldn't try to rescue him from torture and whatever they had in mind for him? But Jesus responds with a little bit more understanding of the situation. In Matthew 26 records, Jesus says, "Do you not think that I cannot at once appeal to my Father, and he will send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then should the scriptures also be fulfilled, that it must be so?" This verse always makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Because in this statement, there's such a display of restrained power. It's an example of Jesus holding back. You can almost imagine the heavenly hosts are kind of like up there waiting, like, just say the word, Jesus, and we'll wipe out these guys. I mean, how dare they lay a hand on the Son of God? Don't lay a hand on the Son of God. Jesus is kind of saying, look, guys, I can easily get out of this situation. We can easily bypass this. But this is important to human history. This is important to the biblical narrative. This is important to what my plan is with the earth. Jesus came not simply to show us a way out of our problems, but for us to learn to encounter God through him. It's a process, it's a journey. Encountering God is not something that can be rushed. It's not something that can be easily added to what we were just doing at the moment. See, developing a relationship with God takes time. And this is one of the reasons, I think, why we're not immediately carried away to be with God the moment we get saved. Like, there's so much more that God has in store for us. He has a plan, redemption, the Great Commission. Sometimes we look and we see, well, there's the answer right over there. I can see it, but I don't know how to get there. And so we kind of pray and we imagine, if I just pray, God will get me there right now, right away. And I kind of liken it to a soldier. Soldiers aren't supposed to act unilaterally. They're supposed to act at the behest of the commanding officers over them. Soldiers wouldn't win wars that way if everyone just acted on what they thought the best route and the best solution was. They're following orders. And part of that has to do with their trusting those above them, the commanders, to have the correct information. And they're telling them and they're fighting on the right hill, so to speak. There's a trust there that they know that those over them have more information than they do. And that's what makes a good soldier, someone who follows orders, someone who waits. But I think it's part of human nature. We would naturally want to take the path of least resistance. We would naturally want to run over there where we think that we can immediately solve the problem and the pain would end as soon as possible. But stories aren't told in this way. Or else characters wouldn't develop and grow. There'd be no inspiration for the reader. There wouldn't be any reason to retell the story down through time. There wouldn't be anything to learn or anything that the story could teach us. And so what reason would there be to even join into the experience? And because people don't remember the mundane and the routine. Something needs to happen. And I think that this is part of what God has for us when we're desiring, God, send the eagles, just fix this problem. I think sometimes God has a relationship in mind, developing with you and I. God has a journey planned that we need taking. And the problem is it doesn't always look like what we would expect or want. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." J.R.R. Tolkien was a believer. Maybe he had this verse in mind when writing about the eagles, because waiting on the Lord happens while we are on the path. It is as we are walking that the help comes, so that we will not grow faint. It's after we're already running the way that He's called us that strength is given to help the weary. Waiting is not idling. The eagles seem to be a reward for the faithfulness, it seems, and not a way to just get around the problem. So, plot hole, plot device, to take the easier path, we would learn very little. We would experience very little. We wouldn't grow. And if the eagles always showed up, obviously it would have made a crap story. So, God meets us as we're going through it, as we're continuing on the path, as we're being faithful. He doesn't always send the rescue before we've had time to develop or grow and learn anything. So I think that that's a important reminder for you and I, because many of us are going through things wishing that God would just solve it at the snap of fingers or the moment our knees hit the ground. But sometimes He has something more going on that we can't always see. So learn to be patient, learn to be faithful, and God will send the eagles, but in His time. So thanks. There'll be more.